Going. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the St. Pete by Night Twitch channel where we play St. Petersburg by Night, a massive multiplayer 5th edition chronicle set in the world of darkness in St. Petersburg, Florida. My name is Kent, also known as Misha Kent on all social media. I am the lead storyteller and host here on After Dark. After Dark is our behind the scenes program where we talk to movers and shakers in St. Pete by Night as well as in the world of darkness at large. We talk to our storytellers, we talk to our players, and tonight, for the first time, we're actually going to be talking to one of our partnered vendors. As always, here on After Dark, we take questions from the chat. As you can see, it's starting to fill up here on the this side of the screen, and we also like to give giveaways, but we'll talk about that in a second. First, I want to talk about our incredible, amazing, wonderful guest that we have tonight. You know her as Panshi, but I think everywhere one knows her as the Brazilian Bombshell, as the maker of magic, as the artist of artists, as a bunch of other extremely positive descriptors that I could use to introduce her. But instead, I'm going to go ahead and let her introduce herself. So say hi, Panshi.
Hi.
So Panshi is one of our sponsored vendors and longest running members of the community. I like to consider you as part of the day one crew. And in fact, you
Almost.
created our first ever logo. And I remember that so specifically. I can remember where I was sitting. I can remember the sun streaming in through the window. I can remember us talking for like 2.5, 3 hours. And while that was happening, I was just watching this magic come to life on screen in front of me. Yes, you also created the first KCON logo too, or the KCON 2 logo. So
Yes.
you've done, your art is everywhere. Your fingerprints are all over our community and our server. And just as you can see on her background there, she created all of those amazing character sketches for our community, and it's been absolutely wonderful. We were talking a little bit before the stream about how I felt like you gave our community a face. You gave it an image. Like, yes, we'd put in all the intestines and the heart and all this other stuff, but you gave us a face. Like you really gave us a brand, a logo, an image. So much of our artwork is associated with you and the work you've done, and I think so many memories were made even more important because of you. So I can't say enough amazing and wonderful things about you. All I can say is people need to go follow you on all of your social media. They need to hire you to do artwork for their own characters, for their own streams. They just need to do everything. But we've got so much to talk about tonight, and I think the first thing we should talk about is how amazingly generous you've been, because you are also our giveaway for the night,
Yes.
where you're going to do a half body color art with your choice of background. If you put the hashtag Panshi into the chat, you can be entered into the running to get that free art piece from our very, very special guest and partnered vendor tonight. So just put in hashtag Panshi, that's Panshi, as you'll see all over this stream tonight. Put that in the stream, and you'll be in the running to get one of those amazing custom pieces from our beloved Panshi Artista. So, everything has a starting point, an origin, a beginning. And you have so many beginnings that we can talk about. We could talk about how you
Yes.
found the community. We could talk about how you got on TikTok, how you found ttrpgs. But what I want to start with, most
Mm.
importantly, is how you got into art. How did you discover a passion and a love for drawing? And how did you decide, like, this is what you were going to dedicate your life to?
That's actually a weird story. I
I'm
mean, it
ready.
starts plainly. Like I was always a kid that liked to draw. I always drew on everything. And I always shown a affinity to doing things with my hand. Cooking, sewing, getting things together, destroying things, because God knows that my mom's Tupperware lids had been through hell when I was small. And the thing I always wanted to draw. If being with paint, being with caulk, being with pencils, anything you could get me that I could make an image out, I would do it. Play-Doh was something that I always liked to do. And when I was getting older, I think when I was maybe 10, I started doing art therapy. So I
Okay.
started painting canvases and I started painting ceramic sculptures and I learned how to sew for the first time. And my grandma kept teaching me how to sew. And actually, a person that always supported me, my parents did that, and my aunt had those mail that come in the mail magazines that teach you how to draw things, and they come with pencils every week, so you get like a huge pencil case by the end of the month. So she started giving them to me.
That's
So
incredible.
I learned drawing first in manga because of those magazines. And then I started doing cartoon, but I kept always going back to manga because was the first thing that I started doing. And when it came to time for me to choose my college, I liked so much to draw, and I was drawing anywhere I could. Sometimes I would be caught on class, not paying attention, just drawing. I would be one of those kids that finish a test and starts drawing on the back page. And sometimes it became a joke with me and some of my teachers, especially the math teachers, because I was good in math in college, in high school. So my parents were like, okay, you like drawing, you like art, and you like math, so why not become an architect? You can draw, you can build things. And I was like, yeah, cool, it sounds nice. And then by the third year of high school, I was like, maybe I don't want to be an architect. Maybe I want to do cinema. Maybe I want to do something more, animation, drawing. And my parents were like, oh, you can always do a post graduation, a master's degree. And I was like, cool. So I became an architect. Guess what I'm doing now?
Right.
None of that
Not
yet.
architecture for sure.
But it does help. It does help. It does come in handy when you are talking about perspective, about volumes, about how to do a character. I've come to learn how to apply my knowledge to that.
Yeah,
By
that
the
makes
way, shout
sense.
out to Nabbers. They've been helping me a lot with my drawing techniques. They are amazing artists, please. They're amazing. They're in this community, and I owe them so much my improvement in the last year or so.
Well, and you've come such a long way because I remember being so blown away by your art when we first met, when we first kind of crossed
Yes.
paths on TikTok. And ever since then, it's only gotten exponentially better by leaps and bounds. I mean, I still think your original work is incredible, and you can see on the background there, you can see some of the earlier art, yeah, near the top there. But then it gets just more and more detailed and more intense, and I think that you bring up a very good point of like those skills that you learn from architecture are still going to come into play because you have to think about scale, you have to think about distance, you have to think about
Proportions.
perspective. You're going to have buildings in your drawings, especially the further you go with it. So you're going to have to like draw
Yes.
a building anyway.
I
You might as
did
well know. Yeah.
actually for the game. I did the Red Salon. CAF had commissioned me to do the Red Salon. And it was the first time in like a long while since I last done a building. So it was so fun to get back to that because I 3D model it
Mm-hmm.
before I started drawing it because there's only some things that you can do with pen and paper, depending if you have practice or not. But to me, I always loved 3D modeling the things. So I took it to Affinity like, okay, I get to do this. Why not 3D model? And then I choose a perspective and then I create on top of it so I can improve on that. And then I could play with colors, I could play with texture without getting so caught up into, oh, is this going to be proportionate? Because I already did the proportionate in 3D modeling. And that's part of the art thing that it's so good. You can mix so many medias into one to become a good illustrator that I love it so much. Like, it doesn't matter where you come from. If you're an architect, if you're a lawyer, if you're an engineer, if you have the will, you can do it.
Well, and
But
all
you
of
can say, "Oh,
those
it's bad at start," but no, it's you can do it.
all of those professions are their own art form. Like, being
Yes.
a lawyer is the art of public speaking. Being an architect is the art of drawing and imagining through that perspective. So I think that there is an inherent art in every field. The art of medicine, it is an art as well
Yes.
as a science. And so I definitely agree, and I approve. Like, I completely appreciate that you see it through that lens too, that there is kind of a talent that you have to have some sort of artistic talent, even if you're not using it in the most artistic
Yes.
way. It's still there. Like, everybody
It's
has
still
that in
live.
them. Yeah. And that there's stuff
Yeah.
you can learn from that to, put towards art.
Yeah. Like a thing that I always say is that one good artist can do only if you work in commission, you can only do so much as what your client gives you.
Yeah.
You can create whole worlds, but if you grab a client that is good in writing, oh dear, the images you create. I have had so much fun with people in this server because of that, because the characters come to me. They are teeming with life. They have stories, they have feelings, they have backgrounds, they have personalities, and it makes so much easier and so much more pleasure filled to do this.
Well, and you can reflect all of those details, all of that thought they put into their characters. You reflect it so well in the images in some of the most subtle ways. Like, I remember when we worked on your Bruja character, you and I had long
Victoria.
conversations about that. And then you made the artwork for it, and you made a couple of different versions of her. But I could see all of those kind of minor backstory details in the picture of her that others wouldn't necessarily catch based off of their interaction with her, but I could see it as somebody who knew the stories, and it was reflected so well. And I think that's an attention to detail you pay. Like, you can pay attention to the story and really take all of this information from it and put it into a visual medium that I think is so unique and special and interesting that you can't necessarily see as much in, like, AI created artwork or anything like that. Like, you have that personal touch that just adds so much to it overall.
Thank you.
So you decided art was your path. You were inspired by
Yes.
manga and many other various art forms. What made
Yes.
you decide to kind of make that more than just a hobby or a passion, but make that your career, your, like, life's mission to become an artist? What was it that kind of pushed you in that direction and said, "This is what I'm going to do now"?
The first time that it happened to me that I could have this as more than a hobby, it was in the fourth semester of college. I had just gotten my first iPad that I used for drawing. The one that has been through hell and high water with
So
me.
much.
And when it died, I was very sad. But again, the community came through and they helped me buy a new one. Like everybody put together the money because it's if here in Brazil it's very expensive. It's double the price that you have in America. So
Oh, for sure.
it's very hard because of taxes. So the community came through and got me the second one. But it started because I started drawing and my teacher, he was 87 years old. He looked like a raisin, but he was this sweet, sweet old man, and he would bring the floor plans that he did for the buildings himself to explain to us how we do it. And then he would bring his own iPad and draw it in front of me, and I would draw with him on mine. And then one day he saw that I had more drawings than only just architecture, and then he asked to see it. And then he asked if I posted anywhere, and I was like, "Oh, I posted it on my Instagram, like my personal one every once in a blue moon." And he was like, "Those are very good. You should keep doing it." And sometimes I would do it like to organize my thoughts. I would doodle in class because while they're speaking, architecture is something so subjective that sometimes you need to abstract a little bit from the class. You don't need to focus this much so you can be able to actually create and not only to be stuck in theory or the hard lines of structure.
Right.
So I started drawing that. And actually, the name Panshi came from my boyfriend, that now fiance, that uh we were talking about nicknames, and we were talking about how we could combine things, and then he ended up naming me Panshi. And I was like, yeah. And he was one of my biggest supporters to start posting my drawings. So I was like, can I use the name for my page? And he liked it, and now I am Panshi Artista because of that. So shout out to my love.
Yes.
But then the pandemic came through, and by that time I had work in scenography, set design for stage theater. I was through the moon. I was still drawing. I was still doing my stuff, and then the pandemic hit, and I lost my job.
Hmm.
I was still in the middle of college. I had nowhere to go but to my room, to my computer. So I started drawing all the time, and it was like in the tail end of 2020 that I created my first TikTok account and posted my first video. It was one of those zodiac things where you catch the sign and the symbol and draw a fantasy creature on it. So I started posting out those. They were more sketch-like, and I was trying new things, and people started liking it. And then I decided, oh, I'm going to draw TikTokers that I like. And then they started liking it, my job, and started promoting it. And then I grew a little bit more. And then y'all find me.
Yeah.
First person to actually ask for a commission from me was Rosie,
Hmm.
RPG Mom on TikTok. She asked for a VTM card, if I'm not remembering correctly. It was a VTM card for her game, and it was from like a tailor shop for
Right.
the game. It was the
Right.
first ever commission that I did. I did not know how to do the things, how to invoice, how to actually run a business, but it was the first one. And then came you and the community. And then it started growing a little bit. I was like, I can actually do this.
Yeah. Oh,
I can
absolutely.
actually do this. So I opened a business here in Brazil. So I am registered. Panshi Artista is a brand. It's my brand here in Brazil. So it became this real thing. To this day, I don't believe that I'm doing this professionally,
You absolutely
because
are.
to me it's surreal. But thanks to this community, I went to places. I went on my first alone trip to America for KindredCon, the celebration of the first year of that server.
Hmm.
And I was
Yep.
so happy, and I was so happy that I was able to do that. And this community brought to me my first ever publishing business that I did with Rev DMC. Dan, he was amazing. We did the Goodnight Tiny Bard book.
Hmm.
So I've became officially published, a published author, co-author, and illustrator of the Goodnight Tiny Bard. So it became this whole thing. I don't want to say dumb luck, because if I
It's
didn't
not. Oh,
go to
absolutely not.
TikTok, it was never gonna happen. But I think it would have happened in another way. But is saying thanks to this community. I owe it a lot to you, to my friends, to this community, because y'all put me on the map.
Well, and I think that's kind of the interesting thing about the pandemic. It was very bad for a lot of people. A lot of people suffered a great deal of loss. They lost jobs, they lost family members, they got sick. Like a lot of bad things happened because of it. But I think that a lot of good also came from it as well. Like a lot of big opportunities. Like if it wasn't for that, maybe you wouldn't have gotten on TikTok. And while I believe you would have been extremely successful, all those accomplishments you just listed, you did in under 4 years. Whereas some
Yes.
artists spend 10, 20, 30 years trying to get to that level, and you did it under 4 years. And a lot of that can probably be linked back to taking the chance of going on to TikTok, using
Yes.
social media, reaching out to an American audience. Whereas, you, for people who don't know, our beloved Panchi is in Brazil right now. That she doesn't live in America, she is in Brazil. But we have this amazing opportunity because all of us kind of went virtual. All of us felt a calling to connect, and we all got onto the same platforms and kind of reached out through the same ways. And we've been able to make these amazing opportunities and these amazing moments happen because of that. And so I think that it's absolutely amazing and admirable that you took a chance on yourself. You pushed and pushed because you did so much work. Like, I do not think it's dumb luck at all. There is talent, which you have in spades, and then there's just work. You did the work. You kept promoting yourself. You kept doing your, featuring TikTok creators as art. I remember the big image you made of the
The
characters of the
tavern.
TikTok. Yeah, at
It
the
was that was what that one was a journey. I was on the end of my thesis year in college, and I was drawing that. It was over 80 people, I think, that I had on a spreadsheet, and each people had a class and a coffee drink to go with it. And I remember when I started doing these huge projects, I would spend 8 hours, 12 hours in front of the iPad and the computer, talking to people, drawing. And I remember the fear of it never going anywhere or not. And if I was going to be able to do this, I remember conversations with my parents like, do you really want to do this?
yeah.
Do you really want to take this chance? And I was like, I can do it. And for some time, they were very skeptic, but now they are my biggest supporters. They are the reason that I still here. They support me through thick and thin
Hmm.
now, my work, so I own them a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that you had a lot of ups and downs, like with the iPad going down. We'll get into your martial arts and the injuries you've acquired from that. But like you've had highs and lows, and without that kind of support network, not just virtually and online, but at home, it can be really, really hard to overcome stuff like that. But I'm so glad to hear that your family's on board and being super supportive of you, because you deserve nothing less than that level of support, especially from family. So I do have a question that came from the chat.
Mm.
Jay asks, during the early days of your TikToks, do you have any special comments or compliments that you still remember? Like, did anyone say something on your videos that still sticks with you and kind of encourages you to this day?
I remember the first time someone asked me to explain a drawing. It was Jedi Droid. He was here in the community. He was one of the Ventru.
Yeah, Stephen Oxford. Yep.
Yeah, Stephen Oxford Esquire.
Esquire.
Esquire. And he was the one of the first persons to person out English, to ask me, can you explain how you do it? How do you do layers? And if you can, how to do it on paper? And I was like, well, damn. How do I do this? So for the first time, I did a voiceover TikTok and a live drawing of the drawing. I held my phone with the hand and I was trying to look over the phone with the pencil in another one and trying to do the line weight that is important for doing that in paper, because you can add lighter lines and then you can erase them a little bit and go building up
Mm-hmm.
the lines into it. Some people use different colors, like some people use a base red pencil as a base color and then go building up in blue, which is a darker color, so it brings the tone down, and then you can over on black and do all this and create these layers that we do. If you look at the time lapses that I post, you see that I use different colors for every layer. So it
Absolutely.
helps you visualize all that. So I remember him asking me that, and I was like, well, Jesus. And I had that account for like 3 months at max.
Yeah.
I was very baby new to TikTok, and I was so afraid because it's been 4 years or something since I last spoke in English by that time. So I was so insecure. I still am. You can see I still stumble and fumble my words. But at that time, I was like, can I explain this? And I always hated how my voice sounded in recordings.
Oh, but
So
it's
it
so
was a
amazing.
whole experience. It's
So
because you like my
I
voice.
love your voice. I
Interesting.
could listen to you read the phone book. Like, I love your accent
Thank
so
you.
much. but you are your English, like your art, has just come so far. Like you're so good at it. And
Thank you.
we have a multinational server. We have people from all over the world. And I've got to say, like, your English is so solid. It's so easy to understand you. You communicate so well. And we've been able to have some amazing discussions because of it. And
Yay!
I think that's so good, not just, you know, for interpersonal reasons, but for your business. Like the fact that you
It
can
is.
communicate with American clients so well has to have been a benefit for you throughout this whole process because they're going to explain to you what they want, and you have to be able to understand what they're explaining so that you can actually accurately depict it. But in drawing the first logo, I remember it was just such an easy conversation to have, an easy back and forth, and you just made everything that I said come to life so adeptly, and I think that's incredible. And watching
Thank you.
the TikToks of how you made certain art pieces, the various steps throughout those are some of my favorite videos to still watch to this very day. Is to go back and watch some of those videos of it. Just starts out as like an outline and then it just takes shape, and by the end of it, it's this just absolute incredible piece of work. So I think that's just amazing, just amazing. That's really all I could say
Thank
is it's
you.
amazing. So Krazaz asks, what other artists inspire you?
I was always a comic book fan. Always loved comic books. And one person that always inspired me, and I met him a couple times in Comic Con. I have a couple of posters of his art in my room signed. It's Gabriel Piccolo. He is a DC Comics Teen Titans artist, and he's also Brazilian.
Amazing.
He started doing fan art, if I'm not mistaken. Then he got into DC Comics, and he published the one of his personal things. He was author on this comic that was, if I'm not mistaken, is Icarus style is just amazing, and the art that he does is so fluid and it has a lot of details, but at the same time you look at it and it's so simple. The lines that he uses, the colors that he uses, the shading is so light. So, and to be this young kid, because he's not much older than me. When I met him, he was, when I heard of him, he was in his early 20s. And I was like, I think I was 15 or something like that.
Right.
So, and he was living this dream of becoming a artist in DC Comics of all the things. And I was like, I want to be that person one day.
Yeah.
I want to work and put my art out there. There is also another Brazilian artist that she goes even here on the Twitch channel is Ursula Dourada. She's also amazing. I also met her at Comic Con. She does tips on art. You can ask her questions during her streams. She teaches a lot. So there is this Brazilian art community forming, or at least that I've come to be a part in the last couple of years during the pandemic that inspires me a lot.
And one thing I've found about the art community is like obviously you're going to have your heavy critics and your haters, but I've found that a lot of the art community is very supportive of one another. It's not, they try not to be competitive. It's not a competition. It's just that everybody wants to see everybody else succeed. Everybody wants to see everyone's art and they can have an appreciation for each other's art. And I love that those communities open up and that people are sharing and giving tips and tricks and techniques to each other because that's what art should be. It should bring us all together. It shouldn't divide us and make us rivals. Because all art is going to be unique. No two pieces are going to be the same, especially if they're drawn by two different artists or even the same artist doing the same piece twice. It's going to be
Yes.
slightly different. And so I think that's absolutely amazing. Another question from Jay. What's your favorite comic book character? I'll also throw manga in there too, since manga was a big inspiration. But who's your favorite character from comic books or manga? I. 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 I.
I didn't have much access to actual mangas, So it was more the style because I watched a lot of Dragon Ball Z
It's
and
fair.
I watched a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh. So it came more from the animes and shows from the manga art style. But my favorite comic book character, the one that I have a shit ton of comics, is Deadpool.
That
I am forever a Merc with a Mouth fan,
always,
and I love him very much
always.
because there's also a very cool comic that people say, "Oh, he's a villain, he's a hero, he's just a person." There's this comic where he finds a girl on the ledge of a building. She's getting ready to jump. First thing he does is to annoy her. Like he prevents, but then he started annoying her, and then he started talking to her like she was a person. He was not
Hmm.
trying to convince her to jump or not to jump or do anything. He distracted her, and then he convinced her to go see a doctor or major emergency care later. So he's just a person. He does the best with what he has and is sassy about it and doesn't give a fuck.
He's an incredibly relatable, well-rounded character. I think that
Yes.
people, think of him because of his fourth wall breaks and his kind of insane behavior sometimes, but I
And
think
filthy
that
mouth.
the deeper you get into the story, the more of the different, storylines that you read of his, you find out that he isn't just a person, like you said, that is just trying to make the best of what started out as a very shit situation. And I agree. That's my favorite. I have an entire, you can't see it 'cause in the background, but there's just an entire couple shelves of Deadpool merchandise. Like, I absolutely agree and love him to death. And so I definitely am on the same page with you there. Anonymous81 asks, "What do you love to draw and what do you hate to draw?" So, what are your favorite things to draw and your least favorite things to draw? Like when I draw, and I'm nowhere near your level, no one will ever see my artwork, but when I
I
draw
want to.
hands, I'm terrible at hands. Like hands are the bane. I always want to do like the Mickey Mouse gloves with the big like loopy fingers because hands are just, or feet. Hands or feet, I absolutely hate them. But yeah, what are some of your favorite things to draw and least favorite things to draw?
I think that there's always things that you hate because they're difficult to draw, like hands and feet is hated by the whole community. And the ones that like to do it because they have experience or they have a very, very serious psychopathic problem that they can visualize hands and I cannot, and I envy them to my death. But I wouldn't say I hate drawing hands, especially because it's satisfying if you get them right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more challenge than anything. But to hate to draw so far to me is something that I have no inspiration about. Is something that I hate to draw. Like I love to draw. If you give me 300 pages of description and nitpick the hell out of it, and the outcome will be something that I love. I'll be tired and I'll be probably grumpy, but it will be amazing. I will love to draw that. To see how people are passionate about their drawings is what makes the drawing my favorite or not. Like a lot of people go and be like, "Oh, I'm being so horrible to you," saying all this stuff. I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. You're
Yeah.
wonderful. Keep doing that."
Yeah, give me more. Just give me more to work with, more creative inspiration.
But to
What
say all that, birds are very hard,
birds?
and I get annoyed very fast about drawing birds. But yeah,
Yeah, birds can be frustrating to say the very least. They
but I need to draw them, so
yeah,
there is no such
people
thing as,
love
"Oh, I hate to
birds.
draw it.
They
I won't
love
do it." It's
birds.
like, no, you need to do it. You need to learn how to do it.
So, how did this kind of, well, let me try another beginning for you. And actually, before we get to that,
Mm.
let me give you a sponsorship ad. We are doing a giveaway from our own beloved Panshi
Yes.
Artista tonight, where you get a half body colored artwork with your choice of background. You can see an example of her price sheet there, as well as all of the various different ways you can get your art style done. And Panshi has been generous enough to donate one of those as one of our sponsored vendors on the stream tonight. All you have to do is put in the hashtag Panshi, Panshi, to be in that drawing. And by the end of the night, we will award a winner of a half body artwork. And if you want something a little more complicated, Panshi is willing to give you a discount based off of the giveaway on a more complicated piece, and take the value of the half body art off of a more complicated piece of artwork. So you're not stuck with that if you want something a little more complicated, but that is a good starting point. So, talking about beginnings,
Mm,
we got to talk about TTRPGs because that's really where we came together, where we melded and found each
yes.
other. When did you first discover TTRPGs, and did you have any kind of like ideas about it before you actually started playing? But when did you
No.
first kind of hear about it or discover it?
I was in the first year of high school. I think before that, it was just before the first year of high school. We were about to start it. One of my best friends, Sophia, she came to me and be like, "Have you ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons?" And it was 3.5 edition book
Oh
that she
man,
had,
oof.
and then she got her hands in the fourth edition book, so we started playing on that. But I was like, how does this work? Because I was never a video game fan. I was never a board game fan. It was like, oh, I want to play Monopoly.
Right.
Always love to play Monopoly, by the way. I like it. I am
You
psychopath. Yes.
you want to talk about sadistic? My God, Monopoly. Oof.
So she came to me and was like, "Do you have you ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons?" And she was starting grabbing our friends, be like, "Will you be willing to try? I want to try this." And she was one of those types of person like, "I have no one to DM for me. I'm going to DM it myself." So
That's
she
usually how we
joined
all
this
find the
whole
job.
group
Yeah.
of young ladies, all women's table. We didn't have any male friends for that. And I remember my first character. It was a Minotaur called
Oh.
Manny. Manny the Minotaur. And he was a barbarian.
Of
Of course, he was
course,
a
you gotta be a
barbarian.
barbarian if you're gonna be a minotaur. You have to be a barbarian.
And it lasted like two sessions. And it didn't go further than that. But every year on her birthday, we would get together and try and play again to see if something would catch. So from Manny, I played the Ranger. Then we switched up to the Brazilian RPG Tormenta, the first edition of Tormenta, which is sort of a Dungeons and Dragons with some tweaks. And we ran with Tormenta for as long as we could, and all the tables did always fall through. So the first actual game that I played long form, it was a campaign that I DM'd called Império de Jade, which is a sort of expansion of Tormenta. It's a Japanese feudal style expansion. And Shadowrun that we play to this day, the same table. We started on 2021, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think my friend from the other channel that I told you about can answer when we started properly. But we're playing this table to this day, and it's my favorite game to play. Vampire the Masquerade can pardon me, but Shadowrun will always have my heart.
Well, and I want to talk about that too because you actually are part of a streaming game of Shadowrun. I don't want to try and
Yes.
mispronounce this, so if you want to
Tomos
pronounce
Profanos.
Tomos Profanos.
Yes.
Yeah, so you have a Twitch channel here that you do play Shadowrun on in a regular basis in a regular game. So I encourage everyone to go give them a follow as well, and especially if you can speak Portuguese, it'll be beneficial to you. But just give them a follow anyway, even if you don't speak Portuguese, to support our dear Panshi here. So what is it about Shadowrun as a system that you really, really enjoy, either as the system or the setting? What is it about that game particular that calls to you?
I think it was the way my friend presented it to me the first time. He was like, Amanda, I need you to listen to this, and I need to know that you're going to be full time paying attention on this, and you're going to read the whole book to be able to do this. The system is crunchy, and I need people to be willing to learn how to play it. And he almost did like a background checks in everyone at the table. So it was almost like a job interview, and it got me like, what is this? And he described it as Bright meets cyberpunk.
Okay.
So I was intrigued because I already like Dungeons and Dragons. So I was like, this sounds nice. This sounds amazing. And he started explaining the word to me, and he started working with us, the characters that we have at our table. They're amazing. All the characters. I mean, I am your standard emo boy that had a tragic backstory, that was adopted, and we solved that. But I still love my character very, very much. I
Actually, I
almost
want you to
lost it.
switch your background. Switch your background so people can see the
Yes,
art that you did
we
of
have
the characters because that
we
was
have
so cool.
made we got it made for us from a friend of a friend. He's amazing. Also, let me grab uh hang on things. But yeah, the game itself, the thing that most draw me to Shadowrun was the possibilities. The game is very, very customizable. Like you can have 4 characters. By the way, this is our crew.
So cool.
I am the
It's
blue one.
just yeah,
Where am I? Here.
that's it. There, you got it. There you go. That's just so
This is
neat.
Pretty Boy. His actual code name is Pretty Boy.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, it just looks like such a fun group. And
It
Shadowrun,
is.
I did get to try some Shadowrun in high school, which is a lot longer ago than I'd like to recall. But Shadowrun is a great system because it is that kind of cyberpunk futuristic setting, and it does it but it's also still accessible. And that's one of the things I love about Vampire and World of Darkness too, is it feels like it's something accessible, whereas D&D, we're never going to fight dragons, fingers crossed. And we're never going to, have to deal with goblins or anything like that. But Cyberpunk and Shadowrun does feel like a future that we could head in. It does seem like something that is much more grounded and accessible than some of the more fantasy based games. So I think that that's a cool part of that system as well.
I think it is because not like I wouldn't say grounded in something that could be. I mean, if you accept that fantasy creatures could be, and it's like, yeah, it could, because the game in and on itself, it breaches topics like politics, racism, the gender questions is very interesting in Shadowrun because there's a point where you do so many bot modifications that gender just not exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So it brings those topics like we're playing in Neo Tokyo now. Neo Tokyo is this whole place where metahumans, so orcs, elves, trolls, are less than nothing. We are not considered citizens, but we're there either way. So the only person in our whole team that is a citizen is this guy. This is Silver Hawkins. He's played by my friend Yuri, and he's our sniper. So it brings these topics that we can breach and talk about in an RPG, or at least experience. Our GM does a great job bringing that up to us and bringing it to the world. Like he does that. So it's nice to have something that you can relate, but at the same time you have to be careful with it
Right.
if you don't want like bleed or anything like that. But it's a very nice game to breach those topics because games can do that. Games can have you talk about something that otherwise it would be taboo to talk about.
Right. Right. And that's another thing about World of Darkness too, is I feel like it allows for that as well. That it does open up some of the more darker elements of the world, and it does create some interesting conversations in that regard. Some other games that you've mentioned previously are Call of Cthulhu as well.
Yes.
And I know that you're kind of in a delay because all those games that get released here in America have to get translated and rewritten and re-released. So what are some of the other games that you've had some good experiences with outside of Shadowrun and D&D?
I've played Call of Cthulhu a total of like 2 times. One of them is sort of died off, and the other one is from another Brazilian channel called Guilda do Ney, Ney's Guild. That he is such a sweetheart to play with. He's amazing. He was an amazing DM, and we sort of called Thomas Profanu's Invasion in his channel because everybody on the table was from the my friend's channel. So that was my experience with Call of Cthulhu. But in general, I've played Pathfinder, I've played Call of Cthulhu, I played Star Trek. That it's become a very good surprise. I played Monster of the Week, Shadowrun 5th edition, 6th edition, Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, 4th edition that we played with my friends.
3.5.
We don't talk about 4th edition.
We don't talk about 4th edition now.
I played Tormenta, I played Império de Jagi, and I was like, okay, you have this game. Do you want to play it? We played Brindlewood Bay. We have played. There was a game that I wanted to play with. It was called Pasión de las Pasiones. It's a telenovela style RPG game, and I'm dying to play.
Sounds amazing.
So every time someone's like, "Hey, I want to try this one. Who's up for it?" I was like, "Me."
Well, I'm glad to see too that these games are automatically being considered for the Portuguese speaking people. Like I know when Werewolf was
Half
getting.
of those are not translated.
Oh, really?
We get
that's
the English books. Most of them all in English.
That's
All in English. All in English.
That's
Even
crazy.
the Shadowrun books, I don't know how many got translated, but I think we have like the core one fully translated, and the other ones are on the works.
Yeah, because I know when Werewolf was getting
don't quote
announced,
me on that. I might be saying something very dumb, but
when
to
Werewolf
my knowledge, that
was announced, I know they said they were going to be releasing it in Portuguese. So I don't know if you've gotten Werewolf yet, but it's supposed to be getting released in Portuguese.
I know nothing of the sort.
Maybe, hopefully. But yeah, it sounds like that kind of area of the world, that community does have an interest in TTRPGs and that it is part of the culture down there, even if it is you have to wait a little bit longer. Well, that's good. What do you think that came from? What do you think attributed to that being bigger in that area? The pandemic? Yeah.
The pandemic. Everyone started doing things online. And the sort of issues that groups had was like, oh, we need to meet. When? What day? And where? When are we going to play? Where are we going to play? Whose house? Who's bringing the stuff? So when the pandemic hits, like, oh, what time y'all want to get online?
Yeah.
Done. That way you can have long form campaigns better. So to me, at least my perception, the pandemic helped a lot increase this scenario, but there are more qualified people here on the scene in Brazil to talk about it. My friends are working with a group called Shadow Punkers with Shadowrun. They help translate the books that we have translated, and they know Shadowrun since like the first, second edition, so they would know better how to say how much it grew. But to me, at least to my group of friends, the pandemic kickstarted most of it.
I think that's international too, because I know that a big resurgence in TTRPGs in America came from the pandemic as well. I mean, most of the people on our server and in our community, or at least in the first iteration of the game, had only been playing 2 years or a year and a half or whatever because of the pandemic and had been introduced through D&D, just like you. And, you know, they got into it because of that. So I think that is kind of the case all over the world, is when you're stuck at home but you want to be with your friends. You know, there's video games, there's TTRPGs, and there's social media, and there's not much else. There weren't a lot of other options, and so that absolutely makes sense as to being the kind of motivation behind it growing the way it did. So speaking of social media and TTRPGs, why don't we talk about how you first found out about the world of darkness and St. Pete by Night, and how you got brought into this wild, wacky community that we have here?
It's your fault. Simple as that. It's all your fault.
What do you remember? What about my sales pitch and the things that I said made you want to be a part of this? Because you were still kind of making a name for yourself on the scene, but you were doing really well. Like I remember tuning into your lives and watching you talking with, you know, several other creators, and you had plenty of opportunities. What was it about the World of Darkness and St. Pete by Night that was really appealing to you?
I think it was for the first time that I actually got a channel to talk to things. Like Discord made things a lot easier. Because when you're on TikTok, you cannot actually talk with people. Like, okay, you can send messages, but it becomes tilted. Not everyone sees it, and you, at that time, you couldn't send videos, you couldn't send images, you couldn't do a lot of the things that you can do now. So when you came to me asking for a commission for a giveaway, I was like, "Whoa, what is Vampire the Masquerade?" Because I knew my friend, the one that has the channel, played it,
Mm-hmm.
and I was always like, "What is this? I don't know what this is." So I only knew Vampire the Masquerade through him.
Yeah.
So when you came to me and be like, "Hey, will you be willing to do this for a giveaway?" I was like, "Okay, cool, nice." And then I joined the server, and you started talking about the idea of the West Marches game. And then you asked me to do the logo, and with the logo, we started working on this idea of what is the game, what
Mm-hmm.
are we trying to create here, or what image are we trying to do, and the whole way that the people came together. Because one thing that was very heartwarming and welcoming was the fact that half the people there didn't know what they were doing. Everybody was learning Vampire the Masquerade together.
Yep.
So it was not like intimidating as you like new player. You got dropped down into a server of experts. So you're like afraid to ask questions and you are afraid of making mistakes. So everybody was like, okay, let's work on this together. Has everybody read the book? No. Where can you find the book? Here's the book. Let's read it together. So it almost instantly was welcoming, and because a lot of people had also an online presence, it was easy to see who we were dealing with. So there was a lot of transparency of who these people were. Like I remember seeing Crafty's TikTok for the first time. I had already followed Dan a long time before I met him. So, and sometimes you actually fangirl because you're like, oh dear lord, they are here. Like I remember you were in the call with me, I think. We were on the clan meeting for the Tremere when Jeremiah McCoy basics of the game dropped into the Tremere channel. I was like, he's here. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, we've had a lot of people kind of come through, and it's been really cool because I think that everybody, regardless of their experience level, regardless of, their online presence, everybody kind of started out at the same level. Everybody started out, on the same level and got to, everybody were peers and equals. We didn't herald, social media following to make someone better than anyone else, or we didn't, you know, promote people who had a lot more experience over those that didn't. Everybody kind of got to start out and learn together, like you said. And fifth edition was still very new for everyone because it hadn't
Yes.
had the popularity of some of the older editions. So a lot of people were still having to relearn. Like I played for 25 years, but I had to relearn this system. So I was learning alongside you guys. I just knew the
Wow.
lore and I knew, a lot more about the history of the game, but I still didn't know the system when I started either. Like we were all starting out brand new. And so I think that really did make it a very, very special environment. So we got a question. Actually, we got two questions.
Okay.
Jay asked, "What is your favorite clan to draw of the vampire clans?"
My favorite clan to draw. In the beginning, it was my dear and near Brujas, because I was there. I was a Bruja, so I could relate to the characters. But every time other clans would come and do the drawings, it was very fun to work with, because sometimes a clan is not interesting through appearances. Like not everybody can be Nosferatus, even though the only commission Nosferatu I did was Mouse, and I think he's here,
Right there. Yeah.
right there. So the second Nosferatu I did was myself, that I'm going to be playing in the game
Yep.
now. But I think
Well, I
the
think you got
most fun
Ace
to
too.
see.
Ace was a Nosferatu,
Oh
and I see
yeah,
him in
Ace
there.
is a
Yep. Yep.
Nosferatu. He's not Camarilla. He doesn't count.
Oh, and you got G'day's Nosferatu in the bottom right corner with the
All
mask.
right.
So you've done a few of them, but yeah, they're not all like that. In
Hey,
fact, most people
in
want
my
to be the
defense,
pretty. Yeah.
there's 96 different
Oh
characters in
yeah.
this
Oh,
page.
100%. No question about it. But like yeah, most people want to play your Toreador, your Venture, the
Yeah,
good-looking
but
pretty
here's the thing.
vampires.
The thing that I liked the most was to see the art progress. So it's not a clan, but some characters, I did so many iterations of that character that I could see the development of the character, of myself, and of the player.
Yeah.
Carmen is one of my favorites to this day.
Yeah.
The first one of Crafty, she used herself as the base of it, and then we used another girl to do it, her walking with her cell phone, and then we did the sire piece, which is her here and the sire up there on the image. They are together, and the last one was the disciplines
Yep.
drawing that she's looking at the camera. And it was so fun to see this character grow. The other ones was Nero. Nero was fantastic.
Yeah.
The Tremers, the Tremers, thanks to Cold Dark, they sort of sponsored a family picture for people. They started it. So we had this room in the chantry. There was a library where we could put all the pictures of all the characters, like a collage. So it would make like a great family picture. And
Mm-hmm.
those who died became picture frames on the walls,
Yeah.
so they wouldn't be forgotten. So one, maybe the Tremere, because of that, was one of my
It was a
favorites.
constantly evolving image, and I
Yeah,
loved
because
that.
we
People
did one
came
and
in
we're
and
like, oh,
out.
how this is going to fit on this, and how
Yeah.
this is going to go on here. So it had all this.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
so amazing to watch. What is your favorite St. Pete commission so far? I believe it was Krazaz who asked this. Which of
ooh.
the options you were given or the commissions
Oh
that
yeah,
you got was your
Larmagini's.
favorite? Yep.
Oh, my favorite one to draw so far. Hmm. I have a couple favorites because
Yeah.
of different reasons.
List them. Go
One of
for it.
my favorites, it was Maga's character using technomancy.
Mm-hmm.
I went all out in the neons and the lightings with that drawing. It was a discipline drawing. It was a path drawing,
Mm-hmm.
a Tremere path of technomancy. That series was like one of my absolute favorites to draw because I could bring personality, I could bring character, I could bring storytelling in the mix. Like Arms of Arimond for John and Nathaniel was wonderful to do. Familla's Bond with
Yep.
Eden from Jen. It was so sweet, so sweet. I cried drawing that one because I have a dog, and the scene with her dog is very, very beautiful to do. So I would say the path and discipline drawings are my favorite ones. But my latest drawing that I did, it was not my latest, but I did for myself. It was Wally, my character. And it was nice because it's the first time that I'm doing a character that way. I'm always used to big, muscular characters, handsome, and so it was nice to do a frail, thin character that he is young and he has this hopeful but melancholic look to him. So far he was one of my favorites because what I managed to do with the drawing and personality that he has.
Yeah. I know one of my favorites that you did was Zebediah Ezekiel, the Malkavian, where it was the shattered glass and there were different like perspectives of him in the different shards of glass. I loved that one. And for anybody
That
who's
one was
watching,
actually 2 in 1. We
yeah,
did two drawings for that one and
I
go
just laid it over.
went erasing the parts to show it over.
That's so incredible. And it turned out so great. And anybody who's watching, if you join our community, you can find the entire art channel is just populated by amazing drawings Panshi's done in the past. So you can catch up on all of those there. Like this collage is a fantastic example, but to see the individual pieces is absolutely amazing. Just absolutely amazing. So I definitely recommend everyone go check that out. Tumultus asks, were there any characters that you wanted to draw but were never commissioned to or never really got,
Yes.
picked? Okay, who?
Oh, Adamar is one of them. I never got to draw Adamar. A lot of the NPCs, like I am still not happy to this day with my Isabel drawing.
I love it. I
I
love
need the
it.
references. I need more stuff to go with to actually draw her the way she's portrayed, because the way you describe her is amazing. Another one that I always wanted to draw was Shug. I only got like a bust
Yeah, you
of
did the
him,
one of Shug. Yep.
one of Shug, and I always wanted him with his seagull in the boat. And I was like, need this drawing? I need to do it, but I
Well,
don't have the
that's
references
and
for
it's
it.
also part of being a business person is like
Yeah,
you probably get so inspired to do this stuff, but you don't want to do it for free. Like you can't just give away art all the time. You have to
I
wait for the
wish.
business. I know, oh, of course,
I wish.
but you have to wait for the business to come in for people to ask for it. But I'm sure you constantly get instances where you're like, "Ugh, I want to draw this so bad, but I can't
There's
until yeah."
so many scenes during Open RP and the clan meetings. I was like, this needs to be drawn. The missions that we had, they are on streams. The mushroom mission. There's a
Mhm.
scene where my character almost goes America, absolutely barbaric, because everybody is has a gun on their pocket, and I don't. And I was like, the fuck.
Why is
Or
everyone
This is
backing in?
America, Islington scene in the museum. I wanted to draw those so much.
Absolutely. So I want to do another sponsor ad here. We do have a giveaway tonight from our beloved Panshi Artista, who is giving away a half body color art with your choice of backgrounds to somebody who wins in the giveaway tonight. Of course, you can get any art from Panshi, and her prices are reasonable. Her work, it speaks for itself, obviously, and her talent is undeniable. So if you put in the hashtag Panshi in the chat tonight, you will be entered in to the running for one of those half body colored art pieces. Or you can use it as a discount code or a coupon for a bigger art piece if you want a little bit more. So just put in that hashtag Panchi in the chat, as you can see happening right now. And you could be in the running, and we will announce that giveaway at the end. So, I could talk
Hmm.
about art with you forever, but we have to talk about you as a player, as a character, as a everything in this game, because you have been a foundational part of so many big moments in our game. I mean, some of your characters still stand the test of time and are still spoken about. Alma is still an SPC in our setting and is an important part of the Carmelita Nielsen library. And obviously, Victoria left a big mark on the city. So you've kind of had this big journey with this game, and we're about to see Wally come back to the or come
Yeah,
into the game. So what talk about your kind of overall experience as a player with St. Pete and what that, journey has been like for you.
it was very interesting because it was the first time that I was playing in another language, a game system that I didn't know, and I was virtually completely alone in the sense that I had no familiar long time faces. Like I had none of my friends that I played with here. So it was the first time me with a new community, a new game playing this. So it was very intimidating at first because of my own anxieties. Because I was like, I need to learn this. And I need to learn how to open RP. How in the hell do you do open RP? Because I never did done LARPs or anything like that. So I was like, how do you portray a character without wanting to die of anxiety? How you
Yeah,
do that?
that's fair. It is a completely
So
different beast. OpenRP and the OpenRP events are a completely different way of playing than people are used to.
they are. And the first big day was the Elysium. Everybody was together. I remember it was like 30 people, 40 people in the channels. Every room you entered, there was like five more people. It was like 10 channels or something like that. It was everywhere in the dolly. So I remember the first time because every time we would go and introduce the characters, and I would get more confident as I would describing her, because I especially made Victoria to be a confidence shield.
Yeah.
Like, fake it till you make it, baby. She is confident. She's here. She is tall. She's muscular. Nobody can take her. And run with it.
Yeah,
So
I
it
mean, you
was
played a very, very like strong, confident, like poised individual, and were not someone to fuck with for sure. And so it was a really, I'm sure it was really challenging for you, having to deal with that anxiety, but having to not show any of that, especially since it's a game of predators and looking for weaknesses and like trying to exploit and manipulate one another. You really did have to take it to another level of
there were
portraying someone so
moments.
confident. Yeah.
There were moments in RP that, because we're dealing with a lot of brilliant people, and when push comes to shove, it's all about talk.
Yep.
And some people would portray their characters to a level where you would believe that it's them, and that you are actually falling into that, and you fall into your character falling into that. So you get this moment where you're like, for moments, like Victoria had this whole thing with the Seneschal and Charon, and for moments, like, I fully believed that Victoria was in love, but actually he was just using her because he wanted a sword and she was good at fighting people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was such an experience, and it actually helped me a lot with my English, because it helped me abstract me. Like, I am not Panshi here. I am not Amanda here. I am Victoria. Victoria is unapologetic Brazilian in America. So she's gonna do what she wants to do, and people be damned. So it helped me a lot to get me loose. And when it came to Alma, which is a more mental character, Alma is squishy. She dies if you punch her. Wally is too. But she spoke in this more calm and complex manner, more paused and absorbing much and speaking less. So it became interesting to see new ways of speaking, new vocabulary come through with each character. Like, Wally talks like this, and it's going to be fun.
I love it. Well, and I think a testament to you, not just in your art, but in your role play, is that your characters always have ambitions. You always have a driving goal that leads you to success so quickly because Victoria became the Bruja Primogen. Alma became the head librarian and a deputy to the sheriff. Like you always have this kind of drive to accomplish something, to get somewhere, to achieve high heights. Where I think a lot of players struggle with that, especially in this type of game where there are a lot of distractions, there are a lot of people, so there's kind of a competitive aspect to it, but
A lot.
you always kind of seem determined and driven with your characters. And I think again that's a testament to your artwork. It's a testament to your profession of always wanting to be better, do better, to make it profitable, to make it your career and your focus and your passion. And that just shows. So with all of the anxiety you must have been feeling, the results of how those characters, where they went and the stories that they were a part of, are basically saying that you did such a good job of overcoming that anxiety, that you did so well at keeping going. It would have been so easy to just quit and back off and just be afraid, but you don't let fear stop you. Like you, if anything, you let fear motivate you, and it pushes you to accomplish such great things.
And
So
not only that, the
yeah,
community helped a lot. I cannot take credit for myself on overcoming my anxieties, because when you are surrounded of people that understand and feel the same, and if you need to stop a scene because you're overwhelmed, or if you forgot a word, even if it's your first language or not, if you forgot a word and you need a couple seconds more than what your character would to formulate the phrase, to ask the question, and to process the things, the community is what makes the difference.
absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
was what helped me overcome all these anxieties.
So, what can you tell us about Wally without giving away too much? Because I think it's going to be an experience for everyone to see for themselves in the game. But what can you tell us now? Because Wally is eventually, I believe, going to be on one of the streamed
Yes.
games that we have coming up. So, what can you tell us as kind of like a sneak preview of Wally the character? Because they are a Nosferatu, we know that much, which I think is amazing. Since you are gorgeous, to imagine you playing a Nosferatu is absolutely beyond me. But what can you tell us about the character?
Wally, or Walter Sims, he he's young and be kept young through wonder. A movie that always inspired me was the Origin of the Guardians, or for those who read the books, the Guardians of Childhood. And the way that he portrays the wonder aspect with the portrayal of Santa Claus and Jack Frost and the Sandman. The way that it's done inspired me to create Wally to search for wonders. So you can see that on him, but at the same time, you should not take him for granted. Because as every wonder, there's a nightmare.
So he gives off a vibe of innocence and kind of wonderment, but also being a Nosferatu the way they are, they always have kind of a million different things calculating in the back of their brains so that there is something more. And again, a testament to you, your characters always had a lot of depth. They weren't just a surface character. Like they had emotions, they had feelings, they had ambitions, they had all these layers to them beneath the surface. And it sounds like Wally is also going to have a lot of these kind of layers. Like, yeah, it's going to come off as innocent or childlike or kind of, just surprised by everything. But if I know you as well as I think I do, there is going to be so much more. And that's going to make it even more interesting to see those layers kind of get peeled back and to see more of the depth of the character come out. If I remember correctly, you are joining one of Crafty's tables
Yes, the
as
mementos table.
the Mementos table, and I know that you guys are going to be recording sessions using artwork, and it's going to be a YouTube exclusive, so everybody stay
Yes.
tuned for that. I even got to record an episode of that recently, so I'm very excited to see that table kind of get brought to the forefront and people to get to witness the majesty and magic that is that story. What is a character concept that you haven't yet played, or a clan or anything like that that you would like to play, that you're really excited to play or have an opportunity to play in the future?
Ventru.
Then true. Because you've played Bruja,
Ventru.
you've played Tremere, you're playing Nosferatu coming soon, so Ventru. What is it about the Ventru specifically that excites you or that you're interested in?
The aspect of control and ambition in a way that it's different and more archaic than the simple ambition of, oh, I want to be powerful, I want to be strong. It's a more controlled attitude, but at the same time, my concept for a character is a different Ventru because he is a victim of control and he
Okay.
was born into it. He was bred into control. He was embraced into control. And all he knows is to be controlled, not in control.
Interesting. Okay.
So
So a
he
pawn
is
rather than the
a
king or the
soldier.
player. Okay. Okay.
He's a soldier. But here's the catch. Diego, or uh Diego actually has a name to rival Carmen because they did it on a joke with Crafty. So his full name is Diego Esteban Castillo Romero Miranda La Rosa Rodriguez. He was born before the Spanish War and he fought in the Spanish War. And he lost the person that he loved. But he lost in a sense that he denied his sire first. He got approached by his sire. when he was sick. And there's a lot of religious guilt with him because it's hard for you to be gay in the 17th century.
Yes, absolutely.
So there is a lot of guilt, and he always denied his sire. He was always, I don't want to deal with this. I have already have a heavy cross to bear. And then his lover got attacked. So he came to his sire for help. So you had a condition. You do what I say, and I'll help you. And that kick-started it all.
Uh-huh. Man, I
So
I love that,
yeah.
and I if I could have you play multiple characters at the same time, I absolutely would. So we're gonna have to see how the Wally story plays out, and
Hey,
then we can
don't kill my
eventually.
character yet.
I'm not gonna. No, not at all. That's the problem. Is I want all of them at the same time. But patience pays off, so I'm gonna be patient,
Yes.
just like I encourage everyone
Yes.
else to be patient.
Wally
That's
was a concept that changed a lot.
so. Where did it
Wally was a
start?
concept. It started as an older vampire, a much, much older vampire. That because of that, the way that he kept this innocent, this wanderlust, was key to what the character was and what was hiding beneath. He still has that in this concept, but the first concept, he was supposed to be born in 1897. And his favorite book was supposed to be Dracula of Bram Stoker when it got in 1986 and it got published for the first time. So much of the character concept stayed, like his appearance, his reason for the way he is, but the way that he behaves changed a little bit because of the age that he now has, and because the access of the new things in his story, the way his sires portrayed on his new story, makes him feel more interesting in a way to play. Because if he was older, he would have been much more taciturn and easy to play in the side of things. But now, with him being younger, because we are working with fledglings, embraced in the last 15 years, he has some feelings that have not yet been worked through. So he gets to still feel the last of his feelings about his life, his young life that now has been embraced into eternity. So it's now a different sort of feeling for me as a player to play with than what he would have like Diego, which is a more formalized character, more materialized when you're talking about the modern age.
Okay, I like that. So of the different splats, as we call them in the world of darkness, so you got vampire, you got werewolf, you got mage, you got changeling. What is a uh, setting or splat of the world of darkness that you'd like to try that you haven't tried so far? Because you've done vampire, but we also have hunter, we have werewolf, eventually we have mage. What's another one? If you were to go outside of vampire, what's another one that interests you?
One that interests me because I have always been a fan of mystical creatures is werewolf and changeling because I like the lore behind those creatures. So it would be interesting to see the game, but one that is sort of closer because my friend plays it, it's mage. And it's
Mage.
so fun to hear his story about the mage table that he played. I don't know if he's still playing on it, but it was so fun. I remember we were at the gym on the treadmill, and he was talking about what happens that he fell from the sky and he was transported to another place. I was like, dude, what is this?
Yep,
So
mage is wild. It's absolutely, and I'm
it's
very curious to
wild. So
see
I was
what
like,
they do with fifth edition.
what is this? So it's a game that I would be very curious to play. No shame to Hunter, but I have played games like Supernatural style where you are part of a cell and you go hunting for monsters. And I don't want to say that I'm biased, but I still want to try, but I don't know how much of a novelty will be to me.
Right. Yeah, like with your monster of the week, you kind of get a lot
Yeah,
of the
Monster of the
same
Week, we played
elements.
Ordem Paranormal here in Brazil. It's an Brazilian RPG that is almost the same style. So it has that. I know that there's storylines, there are characters, and
Oh, of
all the things
course.
that make every game different, but at the same time, it's like, okay, is the same thing as, oh, you're going to play a medieval fantasy RPG? As if we don't have 10,000s of them?
So many. So
It's like,
many.
yes, because I do like the genre. So, cool beans. Let's do it.
I want to talk a little bit more about Panshi the person, Amanda, because I said I was going to touch on this earlier, and I often do this in After Darks where I say, we'll talk about this later, and then we never get to it. But I want to ask, so what are some other activities that you enjoy outside of art and outside of TTRPGs? Because I know from having heard the stories that you are quite a up and coming and accomplished martial artist of sorts, but I will let you kind of take the center stage on this. What are some other activities that you enjoy?
Uh, I did enjoy a lot going to the gym. I've always been very active. I've been roller skating since I was 9. My mom was my biggest support in roller skating. She got me and my sister on roller skates. I have a picture of little me in a park nearby. My position is like, I'm a star. It's so fun. It's one of my favorite pictures of me when a child. And I was always very active because some reasons that I had medically, I had to do very physical activities to keep my metabolism going. So I've been always been a swimmer. I did a lot. I competed inside the gyms that I trained. I have a couple medals of uh, swimming. I did handball. I was the goalie for the college team for 2 years. I did swimming for about 10 years.
Okay, okay.
Sometimes chopped up in little installments. Like I stop 6 months and then I go back and then I change academies and then go practicing. But about 10 years of swimming, 2 years in college on handball, and 2 years in high school handball. And I did a lot of Pilates because I ended up hurting myself. So I needed to go to physical therapy. I ended up doing physical therapy on and off for 2 years straight after I fell down a flight of stairs because of my own stupidity to didn't see the step where it was. So I was lie down there. And because of that, we found problems with my shoulders that I always had shoulder pain. So we find problems with that. It just kept adding to the tally. So we kept dealing with it. And then when the pandemic hit, I started going to the gym because one of my friends decided I am going to become a bodybuilder. I was like, cool, let's go. And then he got other friends roped up and we all went to the gym. It lasted about a year because life happens
Life
and shit
happens.
happens.
Yeah.
And this friend that got me into Shadowrun and all. I don't know if he still goes to the gym or not, but he used to be my gym bro. But then I started not going to the gym because I also did martial arts with, but the thing is, I started martial arts in the pandemic
Okay.
because I was dealing with serious depression. I was not being able to get out of bed because my life was bed, chair, bed, chair, and that was it. So my therapist told me, go out into the balcony, try and have your classes there. Go and try and do something outside of the room. And I have always been this active person, always walking a lot, always lifting things. Even in the set design job I had, I was working in the construction site of the sets. So I've always been this hands-on person. So for me to be confined in my own apartment, okay, I did get out and see my boyfriend. But at the same time, I had this pent up energy that did not go anywhere. I was feeling weak. And my sister did martial arts since she was in high school, if I'm not mistaken. And you said accomplished. She's the one that it's accomplished. She's the black belt of the family. She went through the test last year and she hit it off the water. She is amazing on that. And so now she's my teacher. And because she did Hapkido, the martial arts that we do, my therapist asked, why don't you go and do that also? So I started going there. At first, I started going in the morning classes, so it was only me in the practice. But as time went on, I started coming to the night classes, and then I met the community there, and they are like a family. Those are some sweet people. They are so supporting of what you do in and out of the tatami, and they're just there for you. Okay, we have our difference. Sometimes you can argue in and
Sure.
out of places. You can have different political opinions, especially with what happened in Brazil politically during that time. But when push comes to shove, everybody was there for you. So, but the downside is that I am very accident prone.
And you have recovered from a few injuries in our time of knowing each other. I do remember, a couple of times where you'd have to be recovering from one injury or another. But that's another thing I admire about you is it doesn't stop you. Like you are one of the most driven people I know because no matter what setbacks, whether they're physical, whether they're emotional, whether they're, career based, whatever the case may be, you just pick yourself up and get right back to it. And that's just such a unique and fantastic quality in a person to be able to just pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and say, well, no, I may have gotten hurt, but I'm going to go back to practice as soon as I've recovered and just keep going. And I think that's so incredible. So, another one of your passions that
Mm,
I know about is food, because you and I
yes.
have had so many conversations about food in the past. And I have an air fryer now, so my food game is getting upped. But I'm going to ask you some lightning round questions in
Okay.
regards to food. What is your favorite meal that you either like to prepare for yourself or that you like to go out to eat?
So here's the thing. It depends on the mood.
Okay. Well, of course.
When I was younger, it was lasagna. Done and done, lasagna. I called myself Garfield. It was lasagna every day of the week, especially if it was this cheap frozen lasagna or cheeses style.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, my guilty pleasure. My fiance likes the red sauce one, and we kind of have this show off between who's the better one. But initially lasagna. As I grew older, I got more specific with tastes. Like this hyperfixation food that I have right now is just plain rice, and we have this. Y'all Americans don't have that, and that annoys me. It's a type of fried potato that is very, very thin and straw-like, but like short, like this, and we call it straw potato
Okay.
here. And I just mix that. It's plain rice and straw potato.
Okay.
Straw fried potato. That's been my go-to meal at home now because my parents are exquisite cookers.
Oh, you've told me
They
some of the foods that you've had, like some of the
It's
meals that you
amazing.
all prepare, and it sounds incredible.
It is.
Like,
My parents cook like they were born. And it inspires me a lot to learn how to cook and to do things because I like it and I see how happy they are when we like what they made. So to me, to learn how to cook is an act of love, and we've talked about it a lot because one, it's an act of vulnerability. You're doing a thing for another person, and sometimes, not always, it will be good.
right.
So you get this vulnerability, like, are they going to like it? But at the same time, it's something that comes from the heart because you know that it's something tasty or that you like that you want to share with them or that is nutritious, like you're taking care of someone and you make them chicken soup.
Okay.
So it comes from a place of love.
Yeah, I know in a lot of
So
other countries, like meal times are a very special and kind of sacred time that there's a lot of effort put together. You know, you're not sitting there on your phones just eating something out of a takeout container. Like it's a process, including the making, the cooking, and then the cleanup of it. And I think that's one of the things that really gets lost in a lot of American cultures, is that it is just kind of a one and done. It's an inconvenience more than anything, so we try to make it as convenient as possible. Speaking of convenience, what's your favorite fast food that you have down? And I know it's different than the American version, so if you say something like Wendy's, I realize Brazilian Wendy's is very different than American Wendy's, but what's your favorite fast food that you like to eat there?
favorite fast food. My favorite fast food is not actually the one that I eat the most.
Okay.
What I eat the most is McDonald's
It's just so easy.
everywhere.
It's everywhere and it's
And
easy.
but my favorite McDonald's thing doesn't exist in here. It exists in America, and I am mad about it. It's hash browns.
Oh, hash browns are amazing.
It's not fair. But the chicken sandwich in here, y'all don't know
Oh,
what
we have
real
no
chicken
idea.
sandwich tastes like.
We have no idea.
But the one that I used to the one that I eat the most so is McDonald's, sometimes Burger King, but more often McDonald's. But the one that I like the most and that I would be like, yes, I want, it's Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
It's Taco
Interesting.
Bell.
Okay. Okay.
I love Taco Bell.
I also love Taco Bell, so you'll never hear
We
me
don't have
complain
the
about it.
Baja Blast and all those things. We are more simple with the things that we have. But I always like the quesadilla of Taco Bell. And here in Brazil, I don't know if you have there, they have bowls,
Yes,
lunch
we have
bowls,
some bowls. Yep.
rice, beans, and I like the meat
Okay.
Taco Bell
Okay.
bowl.
So, what is something that Americans eat that you think is horrifying? Like, what is something that we eat that you're like, I could never in a million years try that or want that?
The amount of candy that y'all have, because like the candy there is different from the candy here.
Sure, I believe it.
It's a different sort of sugary feeling that you get in your mouth afterward. So sometimes I'm like, what is this? It's
It's
like y'all have some
processed and it's
pre-made
chemical.
stuff.
Yeah.
Y'all have some pre-made stuff that I tried because one of them came to Brazil and it was pre-made mac and cheese. Like frozen pre-made and you chuck it in the thing. No,
No.
you should not freeze pasta.
Yep. We do it. If we can do it, we do it.
No.
So I'm gonna do one more ad push for people for our giveaway for tonight, and then I'm gonna ask you a couple more questions, and we'll put this thing to bed. But I just want to say in advance, you've been amazing, and I'm so glad that you're here, and I appreciate you
Thank
taking the
you.
time. If you want a piece of Panshi's amazing, amazing artwork, we are doing a giveaway today where you can get a half body colored piece of art with your choice of background for free in the giveaway tonight. As one of our sponsored vendors, she was generous enough to give this to us. So putting hashtag Panshi, Panshi, in the chat enters you into the giveaway tonight. And if you want something a little more advanced, you can get a discount on that artwork based off of this giveaway. So just put it in hashtag Panshi in the chat, and you'll be in the drawing tonight to win that piece of artwork. And we'll do that drawing after these last couple of questions. So tell me a story from your St.
Hmm.
Pete experience that still stays with you today. Something that you've, you know, in character, an in character moment that just really still you kind of think of fondly or that you still carry with you, you know, to this day.
Good thing you said fondlier.
Well, yeah, fondly. I don't want to hear the bad stories. Nobody wants to hear the
Yeah,
bad
because
stories.
the moment that stays with me was when I first lost my character. It was a journey.
It was a journey.
That moment, it was a journey, and the impact that she had afterwards, it was also another journey. So much so that y'all had to ask me to take a step back because I was not dealing well with
It was
some
rough.
things.
It was
It
rough.
was rough. It was rough, and I apologize for my behavior at that
So
time.
that's long in the past, and I think
But
everybody goes through it. But what's something
yeah,
fond that you remember? What's something that you liked? A
that
good
I
moment.
liked a lot. It was when one of them is right before it went wrong. It was the first full house Bruja meeting we had. For the first time, we had like 7 blue Bruja players, where in 90% of the game was just me and another guy. So for the first time, we had an actual clan meeting, and all that shit went to shit so fast. So fast. What happens if you get 7 Brujas in a room?
A
We
rant.
start literal a rant. We start literally shooting tables, having feet go through couches, literal cock measuring contests.
But that first meeting where you got to see like a full collection of the
Yeah, it's
group.
a full
Okay.
collection. Like, and I am the leader of all this. It was crazy because all of them treated her like such this uh leadership role, this powerful woman, and she was like, I am 5 years old, and I don't know half of the shit I'm doing here. And there were people much older than her. I was like, yeah, cool, I'm game.
Well, let's
And
do
then
it.
we fucked it up because we set the haven on fire. But the other one, that it was very fun, and to this day, it's the most hilarious scene ever, is when my character got married to Nira
Mm-hmm.
on Caravan's boat, because I think Nira's character, Wax, uh, played him drunk, and he came to us. Because the first thing happened, I think. No, the ring came afterwards. The ring came afterwards because we went to buy an engagement ring.
Mm-hmm.
And and we were on the boat, we were trying to get Nero to bed, and we were talking about, oh, it's the warlock and the warlord. So, and Dan chimed in and was like, he's technically a captain. We're at sea. I can technically marry. I'm like, yeah, we
Yeah.
can do that
Yeah, why not? We're
for
gonna play
allyship.
chicken to see who
Allyship
backs
between the
up first.
clans, because I don't want you to die and you don't want me to die, but at the same time I don't want to kill you. You don't want to kill me. So yeah, Victoria and Nero got married on Charon's yacht.
Who is someone that you wish you'd gotten more time to play with or didn't get a chance to play with that you would have liked to and might potentially get to play with more in the future?
A person that I didn't have much time to play with was John, that had Marcus and Nathaniel.
Mm-hmm.
I had some time with Crafty. I wish I had more with Carmen. And a person that I almost didn't have time to play with, but the character got to me so much. It was Fennec. Fennec Foxfire. They played Cyrene. The character spoke to my character Alma so much that she was ready to ask Isabel to take accountability for her.
Okay. Interesting.
So I wish I had more time with that character. And we
Absolutely.
had the rest of the new Tremiers, because Alma was in that phase that she was ready to become a mother for all of them. You're like, no one's willing to teach the children. I will. This is my job. This is my place.
Yeah.
So I regret a little bit not being able to do that as much.
Well, you do get the opportunity now to tell some new stories and play with some new players
Hey.
and kind of re-enter the world after being gone for a little while and see how the game has changed with the revamp. So I'm really excited to see where that goes and the stories you get to participate in. I'm going to
Yes.
ask you one final question, but first we're going to do our
Okay.
giveaway here. So for
Woo!
those who've entered hashtag Panshi in the chat all night long, you are in the running for that half-body colored artwork, and our winner is
Oh yeah, Charles was there to
Shape-Shifting
witness.
Traveler. You
Woo!
won, and if I believe correctly, that is Leaf, Lilith, who won the contest tonight. So, Shape Shifting Traveler, you are going to get a free half body artwork of a character of your choice. Doesn't have to be VTM, it can be whatever you want. But you are walking away with the
Thank.
giveaway tonight. There are so many things that I want to encourage people to go follow Panshi on. First off, go follow TikTok. Well, TikTok still exists for the next who knows how long. You can go follow Panshi at Panshi_Artista on TikTok. So go give her a follow there. I would also encourage to go follow on Patreon. I know I have that as one of these right here. Go
Yes.
follow Panshi on Patreon. Go follow Panshi on Artstream, I believe is what it's called. There are so many different places. Anywhere you can find social media, you can find Panshi. So go give her a follow on all of those places. Also, head on over to twitch.tv/ how do I pronounce your Twitch channel again? Tomos
It's
Profanos?
Panshi_Artista.
Oh,
It's
Panshi
the same.
Artista on Twitch as well, but also go follow
Oh,
her Shadowrun game.
oh yeah, the
Uh,
Tomos.
yes, go follow Tomos.
Tomos. Tomos Profanus.
Yes,
From
so go.
profane, like
Yep.
profane tome is the translation. So Tomos Profanus.
So go give a follow there. But yeah, go follow her everywhere. She's absolutely incredible. And obviously, commission her to do your artwork for your own streams, for your own games, for your own characters. Just support this incredible artist. She has come a long way, and we can take her all the way to the top by supporting her in this amazing community. Panshi, thank you so much for being a guest tonight. Thank you so much for spending this time. I know you're in Brazil, which I think is like 2 or 3 hours ahead of us. So it's getting
One.
so 1 hour.
At
Oh,
this
thank
time
God.
of the year,
Oh, thank
one
God.
hour.
Okay, so 1 hour
Yes.
ahead of us, but that means it is still getting kind of late for you. And I appreciate you staying up late with me. Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with anybody who still hasn't gotten into St. Pete or the community or anything like that? Any words of wisdom for any of our new people or people who haven't joined yet?
Don't be afraid. These are some of the most amazing people that I've met and the most welcoming. Sometimes you might think that you're alone, but when you need a shoulder to lay your head on, they will be there for you. They might not be there physically because I live in another country, so it's hard. But every time I had to vent, I had to cry, I had to share joys, they were there for me. So
Well,
be
you
part
were
of this
there, and
community.
you were there in turn too, and we were so grateful to have you there, and we're grateful
Thank
to
you.
have you back. So go follow Panchi in all those places I mentioned. Go follow St. Pete on all those things down at the bottom, as well as in the description. And thank you so much for joining us on this episode of After Dark. This was a really special one for me because I adore Panchi.
Thank you.
She is the Brazilian bombshell in my mind forever. And go support her because she's incredible. But thank you so much for watching. Go join our community today so that you
Yeah.
can get access to all the wonderful things we do. And we will see you next week on After Dark. Coming up tomorrow, we have Bloody Strings.
Woo.
On Tuesday, we have a very, very special episode of Rage Across Tampa, so don't miss that one. We've got Don't Get Caught on Thursday. We've got What the Hell Is That on Friday. And then we'll be back on Saturday next week for another special After Dark episode where we'll have Mr. Gone, the creator of all those incredible character sheets and supplements you can find from Mr. Gone's.
Nice.
Go tune into that episode next week and bring your questions because it's going to be awesome. But for Panchi, I'm Kent. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening, everyone.
Thank you for